All right, great. So we have, as I was saying, we have an amazing panel. We're going to be looking at cryptocurrency, NFT, and blockchain. As we begin, just introducing Landmark, we're really spending a lot of our time today in this sector. We're advising a number of Fortune 500 corporations, nonprofits, institutions, and investment funds, really looking at their commercial, their investment, and their social impact strategies. So it's an area that I'm really passionate about. I'm spending a lot of my time, and I couldn't be more honored to have two experts alongside me. We have Patrick Merck, who's the former executive director of the Bitcoin Foundation and currently an affiliate at the Berkman Center for Internet and Society at Harvard University, joined by Neda Whitney, who is the senior vice president and head of marketing at Christie's. What an illustrious group. And Patrick, perhaps, and maybe I'll just begin with you. If you don't mind, kindly introduce yourself. And just to make sure that we take our audience with us on this journey, maybe you could briefly define kind of blockchain and cryptocurrency, just to have that as a starting point for this conversation.
Happy to. Give me the hard question first. I love it. Yeah. So I'm Patrick Merck. I was executive director of the Bitcoin Foundation for a little bit. I'm an affiliate at the Berkman Klein Center. I'm also the chief legal officer at Transparent Systems, and I'm an investor through Plural Venture Community and investing in fintech companies and emerging technology companies. So what is blockchain and cryptocurrency? I'll tell you, when I first learned about Bitcoin, which was ages ago now, over a decade ago, I can't even believe it. I got the like everybody, they have the story where I got the white paper and I read it, and my mind was blown and the world changed and the heavens parted and all that. That didn't happen for me, actually. So when it came to my attention was early 2010 when Bitcoin was Slashdotted. It was posted on Slashdot, and some things happened, and an engineer brought it to my attention. I was at a digital currency startup, and I read the white paper, and I was like, "This is stupid," and I put it aside, and that was the end of it. For about 6 months, I just said, whatever. We're doing something in our way that's better anyways than what they're doing in this open source way where nobody owns anything. That doesn't make any sense. It's not going to work. 6 months later, people started finding me again, and I got more interested in the technology, and I started doing a deeper dive. I read it again, and it finally clicked for me that this isn't about nerds on the internet making money for themselves. It's a new paradigm for digital property and how we own things. We're making all these powerful tools in the tech world, and we're handing over ownership of them to a small group of people who then control everything. And there's this idea that you can actually build these same types of powerful tools and networks, but the people who use them can own them. The people who are contributing and building them own them in a more direct way. And when I looked at the community then and when I look at the community now, what I see is people who are planting a flag in a far off future where technology and technological tools are not owned by a small group of people who control everybody else, but are commonly owned by everybody who's using it. And so to me, that's the narrative behind what's driving cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. I can give a more technical explanation, but really, I think that's the heart of it right there if you want to get at what's driving people.
Thank you, Patrick. I think that's a great foundation, and we're going to certainly build on that. Neda, if you don't mind, kindly introduce yourself, and then maybe you can talk more about the NFT side, just to kind of separate where obviously NFTs are part of the blockchain, but they're arguably a little bit different.
Sure. I'm Neda Whitney. I am the SVP and head of marketing for the Americas at Christie's. And I've been at Christie's for about 6 months now, so I'm relatively new to that space. Prior to my role at Christie's, I spent 20 years in marketing and advertising. So all different types of firms all around the world, but always on the marketing side of things. So I think of myself as a well-rounded marketing expert. But I think none of us are yet well-rounded marketing experts in the NFT space. We're all kind of in the wild, wild west right now, figuring it out alongside each other. So I will tell you what I know, but we're all learning. So NFTs are non-fungible tokens. They're unique digital certificates stored on the blockchain, and they provide ownership rights for an asset, typically a digital one, although you can ascribe an NFT to a physical asset as well. I think what's so interesting about the NFTs, specifically in my space, but in others, is that they provide three really important benefits. So first, they provide authenticity. Once an NFT is minted on a blockchain, it's a unique token. Anyone can view it. They can access the metadata, the ownership history, the blockchain address, the underlying information. And buyers can also see the address from which the NFT was first minted. So it creates a huge level of authenticity and transparency. The second huge benefit to NFTs is ownership history and provenance. So in the art world, provenance is really important. Who has owned this prior? How has it changed hands? In the NFT space, every transfer or purchase is noted and recorded on the blockchain, and every digital wallet that's ever held the NFT is available as well. So you can really see that trail of provenance. And then third is scarcity. NFTs are unique. The tokens are unique, a one of one, and they're stored on the blockchain, and it's associated with a single asset. So you really start to create single ownership trails, which are really important and really exciting as well.
Neda, just one quick follow-up before we go back to Patrick. Christie's had recently had some fairly high-profile and successful auctions. Can you just give us a moment, tell us about what transpired as we continue this conversation?
Yeah, I think, obviously biased opinion, but I think NFTs really had a watershed moment with our sale earlier this year with Mike Winkleman, also known as the artist Beeple. We sold his first 5,000 days, which was a unique amalgamation of 5,000 days of art that he had put onto Instagram. We sold it as an NFT, and it sold for $69.3 million. And I think that really turned everyone's head in the art community, in the business community, in the crypto community, in the digital community as to the power of NFTs. And we haven't seen that attention slow down. We recently had a sale of CryptoPunks. The Larva Lab founders obviously have minted 10,000 unique CryptoPunks. We sold a number of them for $17 million at Christie's. We've sold Andy Warhol original NFTs, which were based on some of his original art on his Amiga computers. We've sold NFTs of celebrities and artists like Emily Ratajkowski. We recently did a sale curated by Lady Phoenix, who is a digital artist and digital curator with a number of different artists within that, including fashion houses such as Gucci. So I think there's a lot of people really interested in this space from a number of different perspectives. And of course, I'm coming at it from the art world, but I think the applications are far-ranging and wide.
Thank you, Neda. That was a terrific answer. Patrick, so let's zoom out just a little bit, and besides some of the hype and the attention for the NFT market, can you give us a little bit of a history on kind of the blockchain, crypto, and the evolution? I believe you were part of the Bitcoin Foundation of 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So over the last 5 or so years, how have you seen kind of the crypto marketplace evolve, or the crypto kind of ecosystem evolve?
Yeah, absolutely. So I co-founded the organization in 2012, so even further back.
Wow.
And it's been quite a journey, as you can imagine, but it really did start with Bitcoin proving out this idea that people could mutually own this infrastructure to move digital property around, and that the person who held that property could hold it themselves without relying on a third party to intermediate a transfer or verify their ownership or any of those types of things, which is technically how most of the internet, how most consumer applications and things like that work. If you buy an ebook and you download it to your Kindle, you don't really own it. You have a license to use it. And that license can be revoked. So even though you feel like you bought a book, right? And this happened when people in the UK bought 1984, right? And ironically, right? That was the book that then they forgot, Amazon forgot they didn't have the rights to sell it. And so you woke up in the morning and it wasn't on your Kindle anymore, right? You didn't own it because you didn't really own it, right? And that was the paradigm shift. And Bitcoin proved that can work, that you can do this, even if it's with just, one token. And from there, you saw Bitcoin evolving, and there were many forks in the road, as it were, where is Bitcoin going to be this universal platform that everything is on or not? And as it turned out, it wasn't. And so communities of people who wanted to extend and expand those sort of capabilities beyond just sort of as a financial instrument, which Bitcoin does very well as a sort of digital gold. They want to be more expansive in what you can do with it. And other blockchains, networks of people were kind of picked up this technology up and ran with it in different directions. One of the notable ones is called Ethereum. And a lot of the NFT activity, I like to define NFTs as digital property you can own, right? You hear non-fungible token, a wonderful explanation, by the way, thank you. But you're like, I don't know what those words mean, right? But digital property you can own, that's what an NFT is. And so Ethereum was designed to be a little bit more extensible. You can do a little bit more with it and capture property in different ways and do more extensive things with it, with smart contract technology, which are not contracts, but that's the lawyer in me talking. Smart contract technology, it allows you to do things like provenance. And you can do it beyond artwork. You can do it for any sort of thing that you can imagine with digital property. And so it's evolved and the markets have evolved around it. And you've seen the communities just come in waves. And you know, it happened, of course, the price goes up and that's very exciting. It sort of misses the point. But when you see that price go up, what you see is it attracts broader communities into the space. And so the first time I saw it was in 2013, where there was two big price run-ups, two big bubbles, if you were. And, you know, everybody said Bitcoin was dead every time it crashed. Of course it wasn't. And there were these waves of people that came in. And after the price kind of pulled back, those people stayed. Not everyone, but some. The ones that stayed built out Ethereum and all these other networks. Then in 2017, I was frontline watching that in private practice as special counsel at Cooley, where I co-led the blockchain and fintech team, and watched that whole thing run up and this huge new community come back to it. And when that price pulled back, those people stayed, and they've been building this marketplace for NFTs and this other phenomenon called DeFi, decentralized finance, which has emerged in this wave, which has yet again drawn in even more people. I mean, the fact that Christie's is involved in selling NFTs is both like inevitable and amazing, right? I never would have thought it would happen, but it's not surprising that it would happen if everything broke the right way. But it really is that's the story of it. Every time there's this excitement and these waves of excitement, new people come to it and they bring things to it. And some of those people stick around after the excitement kind of fades and they build it out more and more and more. And I've just seen it like it's very stepwise. It's not a linear growth, it's very stepwise. And we're at another step up.
Thank you. That was really well said. I've heard it described a little bit as floors and ceilings. When we break through the ceiling, we kind of elevate and we set a new floor when it collapses, but that new floor is now higher. And as you said, the ecosystem expands. Neda, thinking about that comment, and Patrick, I think, gave a really great snapshot backwards of kind of where we are. Joining us, obviously listening in today, we have a lot of corporate leaders and nonprofits and foundations and social entrepreneurs. And I bet a lot of them are asking, like, what do I do with this? You know, what is a strategy? What's an idea? What's a business model or a new way to leverage this opportunity? And so I'm curious, perhaps you, and then Patrick, to you, what are practical things that you're seeing and what are ideas that you're seeing out there today?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, you know, this time in this space feels very much like a gold rush. I was at Bitcoin Miami last weekend. Everyone's got a coin. Everyone's got a story to tell. And I think not all of them will be success stories. So I do want to, you know, for those out there, I want to advise caution and thoughtfulness around the approach for this. An NFT doesn't make sense for every single brand and every single business. I really do think in order to have a successful NFT, there has to be a story behind it and a reason behind why we're minting either intellectual property or brand rights or a story or a unique experience. Interestingly, though, in the social innovation space, I have heard from a lot of museums and cultural institutions that are thinking of minting things like patronage. So how do they create a new way for patrons to access the art in a way that feels exclusive and that feels digital forward? So whether that's a year's worth of patronage with special rights, special access, special digital elements associated with it, I think that's a really interesting way to engage new generations and new audiences in the arts. I think there's an untapped space with some of the younger generations of wealthy in terms of their patronage to the arts. And I think this is a really good on-ramp for a lot of those communities. I also think in thinking about the NFT space, again, what's truly ownable about a marketplace? I think we're going to see a lot of brands that want to capitalize on the hot new trend. But once that kind of fades and we hit the floor, if we're going to use the floor and ceiling metaphor, once we hit the floor, then what is truly authentic and ownable for a brand, where you can create an NFT and an experience. In the music space, a lot of artists are thinking of minting songs, fractional ownership. How do they have their communities be more participants in the rights for music rather than big music labels and corporations? I think you're thinking of a lot of the artists that are really interested in the smart contracts because it gives them more autonomy and more rights within the resale space. So I think there's a lot of really thoughtful applications for all different kinds. And I use the term artist very broadly in the music space, in the entertainment space, in, fine arts, in luxury. There's really interesting applications within the smart contract to get smart and thoughtful about how artists can truly participate in their brand experience moving forward.
Yes, thanks for that. One thing that I just want to elevate that you said is it is very common in this sector for artists and creators to maintain royalties. It's often built directly into the contract. And so if a piece of art continues to have a secondary life and it's sold over and over again, that can go back, or a portion of that can go back to the original artist. And when we think about the opportunity for different communities to not only sell or monetize some of their creations, but actually own a residual in perpetuity, that could be life-changing. And so I think that that's really one of the unique things here, and very easy because of the blockchain to essentially enable that, which is exciting and part of the new business models. Patrick, perhaps a similar question for you, looking more broadly at the blockchain or cryptocurrencies. What are you seeing as some of the modern ways that people are applying this, be that either corporation or social impact?
Yeah, so there are a few different ways. One, there are significant environmental concerns around blockchain technology, generally speaking, and they're real concerns, especially when it relates to proof of work systems like what Bitcoin uses and what Ethereum currently uses. And there are different ways to approach that. Just to give a high level, in order to form consensus, that is the understanding that this record is the true record, the people who validate information on the network need to provably do some sort of work or some sort of sacrifice, right? There's a long explanation, but just as a given, that's how it all works. Who has access to the database, who can write entries in it, who can modify entries, and how do you permission people to do that? It requires a sacrifice of some kind. This sounds very pagan, right? But in these Bitcoin and Ethereum, that is effectively electricity. It's compute power, the ability to crack puzzles. And because it uses electricity, it can, as these things grow, they tend to use lots of electricity. So one of the areas that is getting a renewed focus, and I think it's, it must get a renewed focus in order for this to grow, is how do you do this efficiently, right? How do you do it in a way that you minimize the ecological consequences of using these networks? Which isn't to say that legacy networks don't have ecological consequences. I think they're just not compared apples to apples oftentimes with these new technologies. But they exist and they should be addressed. So one is to change how you form consensus. And that's one approach that, say, Ethereum is taking. They're moving to a different model. But that has some serious drawbacks in terms of who then is in control of those networks. You're saying basically all the legacy people who are involved then in the future get to basically control who can form consensus. Or you need to look at how do we produce the electricity to run the computers to generate the compute power in a more ecologically friendly way, or in a way that is at least carbon neutral. And there's some innovation around capturing what's called stranded energy. I know this doesn't sound sexy and like sexy technology here or anything, but it's really, really critical, right? So, if we're talking about, flare gas, things like that from natural gas production or fossil fuel production, or creating wind farms where there's no real viable way to spend the electricity that's generated. And there are these stranded energy projects everywhere. Bitcoin gives you, and Ethereum and all these proof of work blockchains give you an opportunity to finance those projects and make them economically viable right out of the gate by allowing those people to use that electricity to generate these things in a carbon neutral or even in a net positive way, because it's generating excess electricity that can then be used within the communities surrounding that. So I think that's a key area where more people need to come in from the community and keep addressing this and pushing forward on it, and then demonstrating success, because that's how you're going to get more people brought into the community.
Thank you, Patrick. That was really great. Let me add one quick thing from my side before we get to our last question. as a very simple model that I've been thinking about, looking primarily at the social impact lens, which I know a lot of our folks in the audience care about, I really see it as a pyramid. And the base of the pyramid, the lowest, is what I'll call maybe passive engagement, which for some of the nonprofits here might just mean accepting cryptocurrency donations. I think a lot of folks now have a new interest. The IRS has ruled that cryptocurrency is viewed as property. So much like a stock, you don't want to create a taxable event. And so in order to give cryptocurrency as cryptocurrency, the other side needs to receive it. And so a quick tip for those out there, think about, are you enabling your donors to be able to give you cryptocurrency as crypto today? And if not, I would develop a strategy. A level above that would be more active, be that minting and mining an NFT for a charity auction, et cetera. I think we're seeing a lot of folks now explore different new strategies. Ned, I loved your point about patronage, which I think is brilliant. And to me, the last is what I'll call maybe more embedded. And I think that there's a whole lot of opportunities that nonprofits and corporations and businesses can truly embed the blockchain in what they do. And so thinking of that as the engagement ladder or the pyramid, I think is just a nice way to reflect. And so brings me to my last question. Neda, we'll start with you. As you look into your crystal ball and we're looking ahead maybe 3 to 5 years, what's something that you're forecasting? What's something that you're seeing? And then Patrick, to you, same question.
I think in the NFT space, we're going to see much broader applications. So I think you might see things like a wedding certificate be NFT'd. You might see things like a famous recipe be NFT'd. It's going to be part of the broader ecosystem and the way we do life for those moments that are very valuable to us.
Great answer.
And yeah, I think that in the crystal ball 3 to 5 years from now, I think just like with the internet, you're going to see specific conversations around this other thing called blockchain or cryptocurrency receding as it becomes just exactly Neda, as it becomes more integrated into our everyday services and experience. And I mean, how great would that be if we did the same panel 3 years from now and we're talking about NFTs? We're not talking about people, which is wonderful, by the way. And congratulations on that. And $60 million sales, but we're talking about how just, somebody who's, as their sort of side hustle at home, is able to sell like their patterns, and use the NFT and like smart contract infrastructure to generate a small passive income to help support their families. That's the real like impact stage.
Thank you guys. What an amazing conversation. I completely agree. To me, this feels like maybe 1995 internet, where what I say is the volume and velocity of cryptocurrency, the NFT market, is going to grow 100x over the next few years. And thank you for illuminating the path forward. I respect and admire both of your perspectives.